people are leaving various states, and particularly California, because it's either too high, the crime has gone through the roof, and it caters more so to immigrants rather than its own population. Now, I know I'm not very popular when I say I think it's important to take care of home before you start taking care of everybody else. That just makes sense. Yes, we all are God's children, but my goodness, if you're not capable of taking care of yourself, you sure can't help someone else. So I just think that it's just really important that we pay attention. Now, what are these people doing, the middle class folks? Well, here's what they're doing. They're selling their house. A lot of people are walking away from the rental game, and they're taking that money and buying small plots of land out in rural areas. And they are using dirt and rocks to build homes, lay the foundation, and the whole 9 yards, just to be able to survive, and knowing that they have an opportunity to put food in their stomachs as well as their children. They're planting and growing their own foods, or at least they're deciding, I think it's more important that I pay for my food and go and build me a roof instead of paying $4, $5, $6, $7,000 a month on something that is not going to be yours. And the difference is, when a lot of people are paying for them homes, let's just face it, that is not their home. They're renting it from the bank. It's called a mortgage, which is a sophisticated word for saying you're renting. Because if you miss the payments for the rent, eventually they're going to foreclose on it and take it from you anyway, which is happening a whole lot across this country, again, in particularly California. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's very important that we start paying attention to not just how it happened, but what are some of the outcomes if we don't get a grip on it. Most people are raised in what they consider, I don't like this word, a civilized community. That doesn't mean that a person who just becomes homeless due to losing their job, as I had mentioned, or hit a stroke of bad luck, that they're a bad person. No, to the contrary. It's just that our system has gotten so liberal that they want to help every Tom, Dick, and Harry instead of helping yourself. Because I believe that if you help yourself and we help each other, we become stronger as a nation. Then we can reach out and help other folks. But my gosh, don't give up the farm. And our politicians, I would invite you. Back some time ago, before this hit, I already saw it coming, believe me, okay? And I'm not a prophet. I think Stevie Wonder saw this one coming, okay? That at some point, the bubble was going to burst. So what we did, we invited every able-bodied adult to come and see what it was like to live on the street just for a night. So when they showed up, and there were about 30, 40 people, they had their bags and all these other things, and we took all that from them. We handed them a granola bar, no water, a blanket, very thin, and a piece of cardboard. And you say, well, what did they need cardboard for? Well, because the cardboard was to insulate their bodies from being so cold by connecting with the cement or the concrete that people walk on. Yeah, we're talking about serious homelessness. How many people do you think lasted through the night? Let me rephrase that. How many people do you think lasted for one day? How about for 1 hour? None of them. They all were gone within an hour, and says, you know what, this is just too cold. This is unbearable. Well, guess what? It's people out there every day like that right now, and the numbers are growing, okay? There are some families that are holding together, but we know the majority of the time when marriages break up, if it's not for infidelity, it's about the money. And some people have some place to go. They go to their mother's or grandmother's house or something like that. But believe it or not, sometimes these grandmothers is getting kicked out too, just because they've had to hock everything to try to help everybody survive. Things are not like it used to be, and it's not going to go back to the same way, ladies and gentlemen. We got to be a little bit smarter than that and really start preparing ourselves for the inevitable day that living on the street is not just not easy, it is dangerous. So this one particular family, they're in their nice fancy RV and they're giving it a shot. Get out there on the road and carve out a life, and they call it boondocking, just in case you don't know. Well, here's what happened. They boondock, yes, but the people who have not, they walk up to their RV and take a brick and throw it through the front window and dive right in there and rob these folks. Now, how gutsy can you or desperate can you get? I'm not even here to judge them. It's wrong, and I think that we need to find a better way, because in most cases, if you ask somebody for something, yeah, 9 out of 10 are going to turn their nose, but that one will say, okay, here you go. I hope this helps, all right? But it's not about the Band-Aid effect. We have to take a look at not all of these giveaway programs to give us a warm, fuzzy feeling, but we need to overhaul our entire system so that it allows people and encourages people to become productive. Look at what we did with the pandemic. We handed out a boatload of money. Matter of fact, we handed out so much money that a large percentage of our population said, why would I go to work when I'm making more money staying at home being on unemployment? And then they kept extending the unemployment. Well, we know what happened. Nobody wants to go back to work. And then with the pandemic, instead of really thinking this out, and I don't pretend to know everything, you wind up setting these rules in place that people have to have an injection. Now, if 2-3 years ago someone was to walk up to you and say, hey, you're going to have to start getting a vaccine, not 2, but 3 of them, and there's going to be another one to follow. And if you don't get it, you don't get to have your job. You don't even know what's being put into your body, and you got to trust the government, who has let you down a lot. And I'm a patriot. I'm a tax-paying person. Okay, I fought for this country. I'm not saying it to badmouth us, but let's just face the facts. I mean, if our politicians, I think, were really paying attention to how the rule actually went, not the one that they write behind the smoked doors, they were not supposed to be lifer politicians. They were supposed to serve their time, roll up their sleeve, and go back home and go farming or whatever else they did. Speaker of the House goes out and buys a $25 million home. You and I both know they do not make that kind of money for their position in the U.S. government. That means somewhere along the line, they have buddied up with some people, special interest groups, and have benefited from it. And that, as we well know, was part of the reason why we have been undermined. But let's get back to some results, because I hate complaining all day long and not really addressing what's needed. Well, what's needed is there better be some new education in our educational system that talks about survival. How many of us went to college and didn't go through a job preparation? We learned a topic, but when it comes down to teaching us how to actually go about getting that job, no, that wasn't it. Well, in the Ivy League colleges, they was going to get what we called a hookup anyway. Somebody was going to open up the door for them. But the average person coming out of a college or even a junior college, they don't know how to get a job today and be able to keep the job and all the different politics that goes on the job. It just doesn't happen. But we have to rethink that part, America, because our educational system is full of a lot of very smart people who have their hands tied for the most part with something called a curriculum that is usually outdated, especially for this climate now. We're currently working with several young, brilliant, straight-A students that are clawing to try to get into college, but I'm still somewhat disappointed because there's no benchmark or guidelines for what they're going to do when they get out, because they think, oh, I'm going to get a job. Not always, okay? Yes, the first responders do get jobs. There's always a need growing because, again, some of the firefighters, police department folks, and the nurses and doctors, they're all losing their job at a very, very high rate as the numbers of COVID gets way out of control. And I'm okay for people having a choice, but I kind of like that one where until they get control on it, great, go have a vaccine. I encourage it. If you don't go get one, get tested. And at the other point, wear a mask too. Now, there's going to be some people who say, well, we went to the baseball game and there were no cases that came up. Well, let's really take a look at that. You just said you was at a baseball game, meaning that you was outside and then the wind was blowing and you were breathing, okay, and the air was being filtered at a very, very rapid rate. But play a baseball game inside like the basketball arenas and tell me what happens with those numbers. See, they don't want to present those numbers to America. Okay. All right. How to Survive 101. Out there when you are boondocking, whether it be through an RV, SUV, the homeless folks, I'm not going to talk about that one right now because that's going to be for a different segment. But the bottom line is you got to join a couple of these groups just on the internet and find out what they're doing. There are maps. There's some YouTube guides on how to make sure that you keep your coach safe if you have one of those, or if you're living in a rural area, certain things that you need to do to protect yourself. Okay, I mean, continue running water. Okay, what about poachers that may pull up? Where's the nearest hospital? Where's the nearest gas station? And if your vehicle broke down, who's gonna fix it? Yeah, you gotta have that same kind of handyman around the corner, unless you happen to be one. But a lot of the middle class corporate people, the management folks, the program directors and all this, they don't know how to fix a car. So if that car go down and you're in the boonies, you got a world of trouble. How about generating your electricity? Solar panels are great. Solar panels can only handle so much electricity, so you got to kind of be paying attention to that. And so you can't run a hot plate as well as the wife's dryer at the same time while you're trying to run electricity through the house to light up things. Okay, so you got to really pay attention to that generator. I recommend 1,000 to 3,000 watt generator. Now 1,000 generator, not gas, is good. 1,500 is even better. The gas operated, they're stronger, but they make so much noise it's ridiculous. It drives you bananas. But that's about choice. If you're in the boonies, maybe it don't bother you. But if you're in a more enclosed community, it will bother your neighbors. So do pay attention to that. So as you can see, we got a lot to talk about. I've kind of scrambled a little bit, but I do think that you people need to start staying tuned. Visit me again, because you're going to start hearing some very detailed stuff on how to survive homelessness 101, 102, 103, and then how to get out of it, okay, in this climate, because we ain't doing it to survive just outside, although God has given us a beautiful place or land wherever we are at, and it needs to be treated like our Native American Indians used to respect the dirt that we walked on. And we hear Christians talk about ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and we know that Africans also paid close attention to Mother Earth, and we have taken advantage of it, sucking out all the oil and playing with the clouds. But I ain't gonna go into that one today. I'm gonna talk about the survival part, okay? So tune in to Grassroots Talks on Blog Talk Radio. Go find it, and I will make sure that you guys get a chance to get an earful. Come with your pencil, pen, or your recorder, so you can get the latest news on how to survive homelessness here in America. I ain't talking about every place else, because I'm not as familiar with that as I probably should be at some point, because the world is shrinking. We all connected some kind of way, and we've always thought about what happens if the satellites go out. Your credit card wouldn't be no good. So we'll talk about diversified income, or your income portfolio, all these great things, but all that will be coming up. Hey, thanks for joining our show. Write me at flashbksllc@gmail.com to find out about our shows. Give me some topics that you want to discuss. flashbksllc@gmail.com. Remember, the whole world's a stage, and it's all about the part that you play. Let your part be one of giving, and go find out what Flashback Academy is doing for our homeless vets as well as our former foster care youth. Thank you for joining us.